Okay, lesson 27, we're going to begin with some quick review on the distributive property. Now remember, the distributive property is the Santa hat with a double bump, or the double rainbow, or whatever you want to call it here. But the gist is everything out here gets individually multiplied by everything in here. So first we have 6 times x, which is 6x, and then we have 6 times negative 2, which is negative 12. And that's pretty much all the distributive property says. Okay, let's try 14 times the 2 minus w. 14 times 2, 28. Come back, get the 14 times negative w, so minus 14w. And that's what the distributive property is trying to say. Alright, next we have 3 times 9 minus y. 3 times 9 is 27. And then we have 3 times negative y, which is minus 3y. And finally, we have 4 times 2 minus 2c. We're going to multiply 4 by both of these individually. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times negative 2 is, again, negative 8. But then the c gets tacked on also. We're going to have to use the distributive property whenever we come across things that look like this. Let me see if I can fold my paper so I can get this on screen here. There we go. Whenever you see the parentheses inside of an equation, it's important that you use the distributive property to get those parentheses out of there, because it's really hard to solve this with those parentheses in the equation. So we need to double bump this, or Santa hat, or rainbow, or whatever you want to call it. First thing I'm going to do is recopy everything I'm not changing. So negative 21, and then all of this stuff is going to change now. So we have 7 times 3, which is 21, minus 7 times x, which is 7x. Okay. Now we're going to solve this just like we were solving the equations in the previous lesson. Take this 21, bring it over here. Since it was a positive 21, it gets subtracted now. Negative 21 minus 21, negative 42, is equal to everything that's left over here, negative 7x. The negative 7 comes over here. Since I was multiplying, I'm now dividing by negative 7. Negative 42 divided by negative 7, x is 6. Okay, on the next one, let's go over here. We're going to take care of these parentheses right here. So we have negative 3 times 8, which is negative 24. Negative 3 times negative 4, and this is where you have to be careful with the sign. Sometimes you just can't copy down this sign and write it down, because if you have a negative times a negative, that's going to give you a positive. And in this case, negative 3 times negative 4x, positive 12x, is equal to 12. Now, we're going to solve this just like we have been solving equations in last section and in this section and everything. Add or subtract first. So this is negative 24. The negative 24 comes over here. We add it. Everything that's left over here is just 12x is equal to 12 plus 24, which is 36. Now, we got to get that 12 out of there. Since I was multiplying, I'm going to divide by 12. X is equal to 36 divided by 12, or 3. Alright, now, these last two are sort of easier examples. The last one down here, don't get thrown by this just because the 7's in the back here. The 7 could just as easily be up here as well, but this is just 7 times x plus 7 times 2. Okay, try these two. We'll pick that up when we begin this lesson in class. What we need to do now is move to the back and try one of these with the parentheses and the like terms, because this is where we're really starting to get in some complex equations. So first thing we're going to do is copy down everything that isn't going to change. The 5x and this equals 8. We're not going to do anything with that yet. But all this stuff in here is going to change because this negative 2 needs to go through these parentheses, and the parentheses will disappear. Negative 2 times x, negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 1, positive 2. Okay. Now, there were the parentheses. We took care of those. Now, we have to combine like terms. 5x minus 2x is 3x. So nothing's changed. All I did was combine these two into this. Copy the 2, and equals 8. Now, this looks exactly like all the other equations we've been solving. And you're going to notice a pattern that starts to develop with these. Something times x plus or minus something equals something. So we're going to take this 2, bring it over here, subtract it. And then we have 3x equals 8 minus 2, which is 6. And I think by now it should be very obvious what the answer is. 6 divided by 3, x is 2. Okay. This one right here is not a good example. We'll go ahead and draw an x through that one. We're not going to use that one. But we will use, let's do this one together, because there's a lot of simplification here, and I want to walk through this one, make sure we got this. You can do this one over here on your own. We'll pick this one up in class. So let's see what we have going on here. Looks like we have some simplification in the parentheses before we do anything else. So we have 8 times x plus x, which is 2x plus 2, and then plus 2x. Now, on the other side, we have 25 plus 25 plus 2, which is 52. So nothing's changed yet. All I've done is simplified those into this 2x and all this stuff here into the 52. Okay. Double bump, rainbow, Santa hat, whatever you want to call it. Let's get rid of these parentheses using the distributive property. 8 times 2x is 16x plus 8 times 2, which is 16. And then plus 2x equals 52. Sometimes we had to simplify before we could do anything, and then once we begin, we might have to simplify again, as in this case. So now we have some more x's that we have to put together. 16x into x is 18x plus 16 equals 52. Now, it looks just like all the other equations we've been solving. Take the 16 over here. 18x equals 52 minus 16, which is 36. 18 comes over here. I was multiplying by 18, now I'm going to divide by it. 36 divided by 18, and x is 2. Okay. Now, the next part of this lesson, I'm not going to spend any time on because you should be able to pick this up pretty easily. It's the same idea that we've been doing up above, just with decimals. So the first thing we're going to do is bring the 3.2 over here with the 5.2. This was a positive 3.2. When you cross the equal sign, now it's a negative 3.2. So 0.7y equals 5.2 minus 3.2, which is 2. And then we bring the 0.7 over here, divide, and y is whatever 2 divided by 0.7 is. See if I can get my calculator up here. 2 divided by 0.7, about 2.86. So y is 2.86. So these are exactly the same, just with decimal numbers, just like we've been doing up above. Okay, no big deal. So let's go to page 3. And let's look at some more complicated distributive property situations. What we have here is xy squared times y squared p minus p. Now remember, when we do the distributive property, when we use the distributive property, get rid of parentheses, everything outside has to individually be multiplied by everything on the inside. We're also going to recall this concept. Let's say we have x squared, y to the third, x to the fourth, y to the second. Well, if we would simplify this, we could put the x's together. And remember, since we have these like bases, the x's raised to exponents, we could say x to the 2 plus 4 times y to the 3 plus 2, which is really x to the 6th, y to the 5th. Just add the exponents on the like letters. So we're going to come back down here. We have x. Well, we don't have any x's here to add exponents with, so we're just going to write down an x. This is y squared. Yes, there is another y here, so 2 plus 2 is y to the 4th. That takes care of everything out here. The only thing we had left in here to multiply by was the p, so we have to multiply by the p. Now we have positive times negative, so we're going to have a negative product after we finish our multiplication here. Now this one's actually quite easy because we don't have any matching letters, so all we do is just write down all the letters. xy squared p, because no letters match on those two factors, so just write them down. Let's try another one. We have xy minus x times 2xy. Now don't be thrown that the multiplier or the coefficient is at the back here, because it's still the same exact idea. Okay? So first thing we're going to do is 2xy times xy. So there's no number out here to multiply by, so let's just write down the 2. X times x, well, those are the same, so we have to add their exponents. It's squared. And then we have y times y. Those are the same also, so we have to add their exponents. Squared. Negative times a positive is going to give me a negative. Now again, I have 2 times no numbers, so just write down the 2. I have x times x, which is x squared, and then y, there's no y here to multiply by, so just write down the y. So this is this using the distributive property. Number 3, maybe a little more complicated. We have 3xp cubed times p to the 5th minus x squared p to the 8th. Okay, let's try to get through this one. 3 times no number. Now, if there was a number here, we would do 3 times whatever that was and write that number down. But this is really 3 times 1, which is 3. We have x times, well, no x's here, so just x. P to the 3rd times p to the 5th. 3 plus 5 is 8, so p to the 8th. Big minus sign. 3 times 1 is 3. X times x squared, x to the 3rd, p to the 3rd, p to the 8th, that's p to the 11th. That is this fully distributed. We'll leave number 4 for you. The only thing you have to realize whenever you multiply out here, eventually you're going to have 2 times 4. You're going to get an 8 for your second factor on your products. If anything was confusing, make sure you go back and rewatch that section, and we will pick up with number 4 and those other problems from the front in class.